Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Inside Scoop podcast. I'm Julian Lockhart. I hope you're doing well. I'm recording this pretty early again. I've done this for a couple of the past episodes now, and I kind of like it. It's kind of quiet around here. The girlfriend left for work, and I haven't started work yet on my end, so it's a good time. I'm liking it. It's Thursday, September 6th. No, September 5th when I'm recording this. This will go up on the 6th on Friday. We've got a big week 2 preview for college football. We're going to go over the new AP poll for the top 25 teams heading into week 2. We're going to go over my favorite matchups for college football in week 2. And then we're also going to talk some NFL. We haven't really talked much about the NFL yet. Their season opener is tonight. The Baltimore Ravens take on the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's just a huge rivalry. I mean, they both met in the AFC Championship last year. We're going to mainly talk about fantasy football. I guess, it kind of ties into regular football. But I love fantasy football. If you do too, this is going to be your episode. We got a lot to do. I'm stoked to get into it. So let's do that. So fantasy football. I'm about to turn 24. I turned 20. My birthday's September 30th, if you were wondering. I have been playing fantasy football, I want to say as far as like middle school, so like 6th or 7th grade. So every year since then. So I would say I'm a pretty good vet at fantasy football. I'm in 3 serious leagues, 2 which money is involved. One is like a pretty casual, basic buy-in. The other one is like, I'm not going to say it's going to be like hundreds of dollars, but I would say like it's more than $20. So I have 2 leagues that like I could possibly win money in. So I take those seriously. But I do have a 3rd league I joined with a friend. She invited me, and I was like, okay, why not? So we're just going to kind of go over my teams I drafted real quick. So we're going to start with the free team that I drafted for kind of background information. For people who don't know what fantasy football is, you draft real players who play in the NFL, and you try to get the most points based off their stats. So like rushing yards, receiving yards, passing yards, touchdowns is a big one. So basically you want to have guys who, teams use a lot and that they're going to give the ball to so they can get more yards, because more yards means more points. And then the more touchdowns they score, it gives you points as well. And you draft a team and, you play against real people. And, whichever team you drafted has more points wins. So that's the best way to describe it. So we're going to go over my team real quick. At quarterback, I got Dak Prescott. I'm okay with it. I think in this league, I really didn't reach for a good quarterback. A lot of them kind of went early, and I just wasn't really trying to hop on it. I'm okay with it. I mean, he came off of a great year last year, and I think Dallas will be a pass-first offense this season. So I don't mind that. I have Alvin Kamara, who has been a guy who's been around for a number of years now. In PPR, points per reception, that's kind of a scoring format. He's a beast. I mean, they throw the ball a lot to him. I've got Saquon Barkley. I love him. DK Metcalf. I've never had him before. So I'm okay with that. Of course, I got Justin Jefferson. I was pretty stoked about that. And, in Minnesota leagues, a lot of times people will draft Justin Jefferson maybe higher than average just because he's a Minnesota Viking. But he fell to me, and I had a fairly late pick. So I was pretty happy about that. My tight end is Travis Kelce, who I love. I get he's kind of getting older, and there's a couple other targets that are improving in the wideout position for Patrick Mahomes. But he's still his go-to guy, and plus those other guys, Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown, have some issues. So I'm convinced Travis Kelce should start the year great and continue to do well. My flex is Joe Mixon. We'll see how he does on a new team being in Houston. My bench is pretty good. Like, I've got Jaden Daniels, the rookie sensation, former Heisman Trophy winner. He's definitely not going to put up the stats he did like in LSU a season ago, but I think for a rookie QB, he could be pretty good. I've got Jerome Ford. He is the current starting running back for Cleveland. DeAndre Swift, the running back for Chicago, and then my wide receivers on the bench are T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, and Christian Watson. That's a pretty good team. No offense to the people, if you guys happen to stumble upon this video, who were drafting this league. There were some people who took some questionable picks. So I feel like I have a pretty good team. That is my free league, though. So all that really comes with that is bragging rights. So here's my buddies league. So this league I've been doing with a bunch of friends and I. One of my coworkers over at Minnesota Hockey TV and Live Barn is also a part of this league. So this has been a really fun competitive league. We have been doing this since middle school. So we just had this draft a few nights ago. I have Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I got him at a good pick. I'm usually not one to really draft a quarterback very high, but I was like, he was the second quarterback off the board, and I got him for a pretty good pick. Like, I got him kind of like late fourth round. So I was pretty happy with that. Wide receiver, I have Amari Cooper, who still remains wide receiver 1 in Cleveland. He's been a guy, I think you kind of know what to expect from him. He's not going to go and get you, 1,500 yards and a dozen touchdowns with over 100 catches. But, you should expect 80 catches, should be over 1,000 yards and, 6 to 8 touchdowns. I have Stephon Diggs, who I don't really love that pick. I got him. I mean, I didn't really reach for him. I got him, I think, for like the 7th round. I'm okay with it. We'll see how he does in Houston. Breece Hall, who I'm really excited about. I had the 4th overall pick in the draft, and I drafted him for my first pick. He should be great. I've got Derrick Henry now on the Ravens, so he plays tonight. And then I've also got Travis Kelce in this one. I've kind of like the idea of getting Travis Kelce just at the spot he's going for. Like, I feel like I've gotten him for pretty good value. And then I've got Malik Neighbors as my flex. The other kind of rookie wide receiver sensation for the New York Giants. And he goes up against the Minnesota Vikings. And as a Vikings fan, I know Minnesota seems like they definitely put up some questionable defenses, and they really just don't have great cornerbacks. So I don't know. We'll see. He might torch the Vikings secondary. My bench, I also have Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb. So this is a keeper league, what we do. And how that works is when you draft, rounds 10 and after, so 10, 11, like 10 through like 15, I think we draft, you can choose for the next season to keep one of those guys. So like I could choose, for example, Nick Chubb for next year to have him on my team next year and replace where I don't draft at the 10th round position. Sometimes that's beneficial because if you get a guy, maybe a young guy or a little bit of a sleeper who ends up having a good season, and then he's projected to be drafted higher than he was the previous season, it's kind of like you're getting him for a steal. And I was like, well, Nick Chubb's coming off of a gruesome leg injury. But I don't know. I've seen reports and videos of him looking pretty good. It's definitely different, training off the field, doing leg workouts, and looking good versus actually running in the NFL. Like, that totally different. But so far, it looks like he's had a pretty good recovery. I'm not sure if he's gonna do much this year. I mainly just got him because I was like, wow, like if he starts in Cleveland next year, he'll be one of the best running backs. I've got Calvin Ridley as my wide receiver 4. I'm pretty happy about that. He should be targeted a lot in Tennessee. And then I've got Jordan Love. He was the guy I kept from last year. So he was basically my 15th round pick, which is a pretty good pick because he's been arguably a top 10 quarterback this year. So I'm pretty happy with this team. Yeah, should be a good time. And then my last league I'm in is another buddies league. This is, however, only my second year doing this. A lot of guys who I went to college with, and then also a few who I know from high school are in this league. We do an auction draft. So how this works, I know I'm kind of like all over the place. How this works is you get 200 fake dollars to spend, or whatever. We choose 200 fake dollars to spend, and you bid on players like an auction. So you kind of really get to choose, who you want to spend your money on. I'm okay with this team. Like, between the 3 teams, like the 3 series teams I have, this is the team I like the least, which is funny because, of course, this is the league that has the most money involved, so you kind of want to do well. I don't know. Like, I'm okay with it. I actually got the second best draft grade, so ESPN must like my team. But we'll get into it. Josh Allen is my starting quarterback. I got him for a pretty good price. So I'm fine with that. So yeah, 2 of my 3 leagues, I've got elite quarterbacks. I kind of like the idea of having like a Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts just because unless if they're injured, no matter the matchup, they're guys who could at any game pop off for like 30 points. So, which is good. And it's like, well, I'm going to start them every week. So I kind of like that. Running backs, I got Joe Mixon and then Isaiah Pacheco. I'm really happy I have Isaiah Pacheco. I kind of overpaid for him. However, I think he has top 5 running back upside. He's going to be used so much. His targets are going to go up. I love him at all costs. A.J. Brown and Chris Olave for my wide receivers. A.J. Brown kind of had a career year. I don't know if he'll do that again, but I'm kind of hoping something similar to that. And then we're kind of waiting for Chris Olave, the young rookie, or not the young rookie, the young, I think third year now, third or fourth year? I think third year out of Ohio State to kind of have his breakout season. I've got Dalton Kincaid at tight end. He potentially has one of the best upsides for tight ends this year just because he's going to be Josh Allen's number 1 target. So that's kind of a nice little underrated duo I've got, Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid. My flex is DJ Moore. He's coming off of a career season. Now Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze are in the offense, but he's got to upgrade at quarterback. So we'll see how DJ Moore does. My bench is okay. Like I've got Najee Harris, who I think should start in Pittsburgh for now because I think Jalen Warren's got a little bit of a hamstring injury. But I've kind of given up on like Najee Harris is going to have that breakout season. Like he was, the number 1 running back drafted a few years back, and he was put into the Steelers offense, which I feel like they have breeded running backs, great fantasy running backs over the years, and I'm not expecting him to do much. I've got Tajay Spears, running back, who will be splitting the carries in Tennessee with Tony Pollard. And then I've stashed away Jonathan Brooks on the bench. He'll be injured for a decent portion of the season. However, he's kind of like a late-round stash just because when he starts and is healthy, he'll be the number 1 running back in Carolina. Mark my words. My wide receivers, pretty young. I've got Ladd McConkey, the rookie out of Georgia. He'll be the number 1 target for Justin Herbert. I'm surprised I got him like when I did. He should be good. Then I've got Brian Thomas Jr., the rookie out of LSU. He'll be, I think, the second option for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. And then I've got Khalil Shakir, who should be one of the 3 starter wide receivers for Josh Allen. We'll see. I was kind of like a BS pick. And then my backup quarterback is Justin Herbert. So we'll see. I don't love my team in that league, which is unfortunate. But I feel like, honestly, the way the draft went, like, no one had that great of a team. Like, there's one guy who has, like, I think it's like he's got, like, CeeDee Lamb, Saquon Barkley. No, he's got Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, and Jonathan Taylor. Like, he's got, like, 3 of, like, the top 6 running backs. But then after that, his team is shit because he spent so much money. Sorry, Nick, if you listen to this. I don't mean to expose your ass. But, yeah. So, like, he's got 3 really good players. And then outside of that, his team's pretty crap. Anyway, so that's enough about fantasy football. Week 1 starts today for the NFL. I'm super excited about it. I do have to work on Sunday, which is a little unfortunate, like how it's like going to be like the Vikings opener, even though it's not going to be their home opener, but there's going to be a ton of noon games. But at least I can look forward to the game tonight. I should be able to catch some of the games tomorrow because I will be broadcasting some games in Michigan. Well, I will not be in Michigan. I will be right here in my informal office. But I will be broadcasting games remotely in Michigan, and that'll be tonight and Sunday. So that'll be Friday and Sunday. So unfortunately, that's just kind of how the ball rolls sometimes. It is what it is. I don't mind missing NFL. It's good money. I love broadcasting as well. It's what I want to do someday. Anyway, enough about me. Let's get into Week 2 preview of college football. So we had the Week 1 recap go up earlier this week. Now we're going to go into Week 2. Let's get a good reaction to the AP poll. I was a little upset that when I was recording, I was kind of like itching to look at the AP poll for the Week 1 recap, and it didn't come out yet. So I'm like, okay, I got to wait for the Week 2 preview. It's whatever. Let's talk about it. Georgia remains number 1. as they should. They just had a huge win at home against number 14 at the time, Clemson. Ohio State remains at 2. I'm fine with that. A big win against Akron. Texas moves up to 3. They had a blowout. I think they beat Colorado State. I think they shut them out. So I'm fine with that. Again, kind of the question was, okay, Oregon had a questionable win. A win is a win, but they only won by 10 against Idaho. How far does Oregon drop? I love good protein shake in the morning. It's delicious. If you're watching, that's a chocolate protein shake. But if you're listening, you just have to use your imagination. Chocolate protein powder with banana. I did a whole banana this morning, which makes it pretty darn sweet. But sometimes half a banana even works. Use some unsweetened almond milk. You don't need that added sugar. Unsweetened almond milk. And then ice. Blend it up for about a minute. It's money. Especially for your health freaks out there. It's so delicious, and it's really low calorie. This thing, I mean, I had a pretty big banana in this thing. This thing's probably 300 calories for an entire shake, but it tastes really good. Like, I'd say it, for the fact that it's like a third of the calories of like an actual shake, and this actually has nutrients, it's pretty good bang for your buck. Anyway, Oregon drops outside the top 5, so we're going to go kind of zoom up to them. So Texas moves up to 3, I'm fine with. Alabama had a big home win. They move up to 4. Notre Dame goes top 5. They were 7th last week. And, they had a very impressive win at Texas A&M on College game day. I totally agree. They should be top 5. They come in at 5. Ole Miss stays at 6. They had just a huge definition of a blowout. They won 76-0 against Furman. You knew they weren't going to move down. I could maybe understand the argument if you say, hey, they should be over Notre Dame. But again, I think it's tough to kind of move everyone up, And Notre Dame did have a very impressive win, at a ranked opponent. You're traveling to Texas, tough crowd, big game, and you come up and win that one. That's very impressive. Oregon drops to 7. Which I'm like, wow, they dropped 4 spots. They were 3 last week. And truthfully, they probably are a top 5 team. But yeah, I think you have to put them outside the top 5, right? Just because you beat Idaho, an FCS program, only by 10 points. And in my opinion, you have the best offense, at least on paper, in the country. I discussed this a little earlier in my week 1 recap. They should have been disappointed in only scoring 3 touchdowns and a field goal. They should have scored way more than that at home. And then on top of that, you let up 2 touchdowns as well. Again, it was kind of a tough win. I expect more. They play Boise State. We'll head into that matchup a little bit later, but we'll see. Ashton Jeanty, one of the best running backs in America. We'll see. He had a huge performance week 1. We'll see about that. But, so Oregon to 7. And then Penn State stays right at 8. And for me, I'm like, Penn State had to go to a fringe top 25 team. West Virginia was receiving votes. I think they still are to be in the top 25. And they had home field advantage. And West Virginia brought a great crowd. And Penn State beats the spread. They beat them, 34-12. And they stay at 8. Personally, I think you move them up to 7. I think Oregon should be 8, if you're asking me. But Penn State stays at 8. Missouri moves into the top 10 at 9, going from 11 to 9. Again, I didn't really see a ton of love for Brady Cook and Luther Burden, but they did spread the ball around a lot to other receivers for the Missouri offense, and they did have a big shutout win against Murray State. So that moving into 9 is fine, and realistically, I do think Missouri is a top 10 team in the country. Michigan moves down 1 to 10, so they're still in the top 10. They beat Fresno State 30-10 at home. And I still think Michigan's a little overrated. I've talked about this before. Michigan might have the most number 1 first-round picks this season. Will Johnson, Mason Graham, Colson Loveland, Kenneth Grant, maybe, possibly Donovan Edwards. You have a decent chunk of players on both sides, offense and defense, that will be big NFL stars. But, as a complete team, I'm just not convinced yet. They lost too much depth and too many great guys. So 10 is a little high for me. Utah moves up to 11. That's fine. Cam Rising had. I haven't really seen him be much of a top 10 quarterback in people's lists this year. And I'm like, he's definitely a top 10 quarterback. And he just threw, he only completed 10 passes, but threw 5 passing touchdowns. That's pretty crazy. 50% touchdown rate. Incredible. Miami moves up to 12. So they move 7 spots. So one of the biggest moves of the week. And I totally agree. Miami had a huge win at the Swamp in Florida. Cam Ward looked like a Heisman candidate. An awesome performance for the Hurricanes. Right now, they are the best team in the ACC. And, which, based off Florida State's performance the first couple weeks and Clemson's performance, it's like, who else was it going to be? But Miami had a great game. Let's see if they keep it up. USC moves to 13. So they go from 23 to 13. They had that big upset win at LSU. That's a great win. You go to one of the hardest environments, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Big traveling, from Southern California. You're going to the South, and you beat LSU by a touchdown. That's great. However, I think LSU in the preseason poll was very overrated. 13 was really high. And I think a lot of people who really follow the sport closely would agree. And for me, it's like, well, it's still an impressive win. Definitely one of the best wins of the week. I just don't know if they should be number 13. That seems a little high for me. Like, there's a couple teams below them that I think should be slightly above them. Not by much. I don't want to say, they're overrated necessarily. I just think 13 is a little high. 14 is Tennessee. That's one team. Tennessee had a huge win against Chattanooga. They beat them by 66 points. The Volunteers should be higher than USC in my opinion. 15 is Oklahoma. They move up one. Oklahoma State at 16, which I'm fine with. Oklahoma State played South Dakota State, the best team in FCS. And, Ollie Gordon. That's all you really need to know. 17 goes to Kansas State. They move up one. I'm fine with that. Then LSU bumps down to 18. So they bump down 5 spots. Here's my problem. I've got 2 problems with this, actually. They should have been around the 18th spot in the preseason. And now it's like you have a loss. You at home. And you're still in the top 20? I just don't like that. And then, let's just, I don't like to compare too much, but then it's like, okay, Oregon wins, comes out with a win, and then move down 4 spots. LSU is at home. They should win this game, although it's a much tougher opponent. USC is much better than Idaho on, 99% of the times. 99% of the time, USC is going to be better than Idaho. And you tell me that Oregon moves down 4 with a home win versus LSU has a home loss to start the season and they only move down 5? That's my issue. That's ridiculous. LSU should not be in the top 20. Are they a top 25 team? Maybe. But right now they should not be inside the top 20. I don't even know if they should have been in the top 20 before the home loss. So that's my issue with that. Gets the blood flowing. Kansas moves up to 19. They move up 3. Jayhawks. I'm cool with that. Jalen Daniels. He's the real deal. I'm really excited. Hopefully him and that Devin Neal can stay healthy. A great running back, quarterback duo. 20 goes to Arizona, which I get. Arizona, I think, is going to be kind of like the new USC Trojans with Caleb Williams. I'm not going to say Fafita is as great of a prospect as Caleb Williams, but just with his connection and just their offense, they scored 61 points last week. But then defensively, I think, is their question. So then it kind of makes me wonder how well and how long will Arizona last inside the top 25 with their defensive struggles when it comes to Big 12 play. We'll see. Iowa moves up to 21. I'm cool with it. They had a big shutout win against Illinois State. Again, Iowa's offense exists. Good for them. Defensively, a shutout win is phenomenal. Yeah, they've got a good game too against their rivals Iowa State, so that should be really fun. And then we got a couple non-ranked teams. Louisville cracks a top 25. They come in at number 22. That's cool. Louisville is a top 3 team, maybe even a top 2 team. No, they are the second best team in the ACC behind Miami right now. I totally get it. Georgia Tech cracks a top 25 as well. I'm super happy about it. Just because I needed a little bounce back. I had. So I feel like maybe some people misinterpreted this. So a couple weeks ago, I posted on my Instagram just kind of like a clip, me talking about the St. Thomas Tommies. And I was like, can the St. Thomas Tommies go 12-0? Like, is it possible? Like, is it realistic this year? And I said yes. And then for them to go and lose their first game against the Division II team. So I'm like, wow, like there goes my credibility, right? And then I'm like, is Georgia Tech going to be a top 25 team? I think they definitely should be. And hey, they cracked the top 25. And if I really had to guess another team, it would have been Louisville. So I'm pretty happy about that. But yeah, Georgia Tech, they're 2-0. Again, a win against a top 10 team at the time in Florida State. Then they play Georgia Southern and have a huge win at home. Now they go up to Syracuse and have a good away game. So that should be fun. We'll see if they're the real deal still. NC State stays at 24. I'm okay with. They played one of the Carolina schools, like Western Carolina or Eastern Carolina or something like that. And I think they won 38-21. So I'm like, okay, defensively, questionable performance. And then Clemson stays in the top 25. They move down 11 spots. I mean, I'm kind of like, yeah, like they deserve to be in the top 25. It's like, what did you expect? You go to Georgia, the number 1 team in the country. Like, do you really expect to win that one? Clemson's still a good team. So I'm fine with Clemson being in the top 25. I actually want to load now some of the teams outside of the top 25 that received votes. I kind of copied and pasted the top 25 into my notes here, but I didn't copy and paste the teams receiving some votes. So Texas A&M receives the most votes to stay in the top 25. I mean, I don't really think so. You had home field advantage. I mean, yes, Notre Dame is a great team. They were number 7. Now you lost to a top 5 team at home. I get it. I still think there's a couple teams behind them that are more deserving, like Boston College. They have the second most votes, and it's like, you know what? You go to Florida State, who was still number 10 in the country at the time, and you win. You kind of whoop their ass at some points. I mean, you score 4 touchdowns, and then, defensively, you kind of lock them up. So a big win for Boston College. I think if they can have a week 2 win, I think they could possibly sneak into the top 25 for week 3. Boise State's also in that mix. Iowa State's up there. Memphis, Nebraska, SMU, and Washington. All good teams to kind of keep on your watch list for possible top 25 appearances in the near future. I think overall it's pretty good. Again, the biggest issue I have is that LSU is still in the top 20. I think Oregon, and Penn State should maybe flip one. As USC a little overrated, maybe. But otherwise, they got it pretty right. So I'm fine with that. Now let's go into the best matchup for week 2. There's not a ton of big ranked matchups. There's really only, I think, 2 games that have both teams being top 25. That tastes so good. I'm sorry if you had to get like a really good sound of that. The first one, Boise State at Oregon. Boise State, I shouldn't say number 1 running back, but one of the best running backs in college football, Ashton Jeanty. 6 touchdown performance last week. Are you kidding me? He probably won't get that against Oregon this year. I think Oregon, they were battle-tested week 1. Now they play a much better team. Boise State, fringe top 25 FBS program, much better than a good FCS program in Idaho. I think I'm kind of hoping for the Ducks because I do like the Ducks. I'm hoping that last week's performance was kind of like humbling, and it's like, you know what, like you can lose. If you don't play on top of your game, teams are going to play you hard. And Boise State's going to be one of those teams, they would be absolutely in the top 25. They know that if they go to Oregon and win this one. So Oregon needs to play tough. But I'm excited for it. I think Dylan Gabriel should bounce back. I hope we see more involvement from Evan Stewart, the transfer from Texas A&M. Tez Johnson, I think, should still remain the number one target. It'll be a good one. I'm excited to see that. Colorado at Nebraska. A little Big 10, Big 12 rivalry. These two teams played last year. And I want to say, did Colorado get the win? Did they beat Nebraska last year? I want to say they did. Because I know they beat TCU and Colorado State. Yeah, they beat Nebraska, I'm pretty sure. I mean, Nebraska is a much better team. Starting with Dylan Raiola at quarterback. I mean, he had a good performance week one. Number one quarterback out of high school. I mean, he deserves to be the starter. Nebraska's at home. I think Nebraska's a 7.5-point favorite. I mean, I can see people taking Colorado plus 7.5. I mean, I don't think Colorado's going to necessarily have, as efficient of a game, as they did against North Dakota State last week. This should be fun, though. I think this is probably the best matchup of two non-ranked teams. But both teams are receiving votes to be top 25. So I think whoever comes out of this one will definitely be a front runner next in line to be ranked. So I'm really excited to watch that. Even though it's a non-conference game, I still think these two teams are kind of like a non-conference rivalry. Plus, regionally, Nebraska and Colorado are very close to each other. Tennessee and NC State. I've discussed this game a little bit about College Game Day appearances. This is not going to be the location of College Game Day this week. But it should be a great game. Tennessee still in the top 15. Or no, they're 14 now, aren't they? Yes, they are. I wrote them down as 15. Oh, my goodness. I messed up. I done goofed. Let me just mentally change that now. Okay. Tennessee. I think they're favorites in this one. They should. But I don't want to doubt NC State. I think it's also minus 7.5 or minus 6.5 in favor of Tennessee. I don't know. I don't really know if Tennessee wins by a touchdown on this one. I could see NC State pulling away from this one. We'll see. It should be fun. Iowa State at Iowa. The Hawkeyes, wow. I mean, they look good. Granted, it's against Illinois State, and it's going to be a much better opponent in Iowa State now. But that should be fun. That was kind of another underrated location that I wanted to see College Game Day be at. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Hawkeyes in this one. However, have I just not been projecting? I just realized I have not been projecting winners. Okay, we're gonna take a step back here. I think Oregon beats Boise State. I'm gonna go Nebraska beating Colorado. I got Tennessee at NC State. I've got Tennessee winning, and then I've got Iowa beating Iowa State. I think it should be a close game in Iowa. And this could be a game that, it's like a 13-7 finish, right? Okay, Arkansas at Oklahoma State. Arkansas surprised me. I thought they were going to maybe be one of the worst teams in the SEC this season, and they actually had a big first win. Now they go to Oklahoma State, a little SEC Big 12 battle. And we'll see. Oklahoma State's got home field advantage. I mean, Oklahoma State has had a pretty tough non-conference schedule, I feel, to start the year against some kind of underrated teams. South Dakota State and then Arkansas. I mean, we'll see. I could see Arkansas, that would be an upset, but I could see them being an upset watch for sure. I got Oklahoma State, though. Last but not least, the best matchup I think everyone kind of has their eye on. College Game Day is going to be there. I mean, I predicted it. I'm 1-for-1 this year. I think anyone could have predicted College Game Day was going to go to Ann Arbor, Michigan, as they host the Texas Longhorns. I mean, this is amazing. I love seeing an SEC Big Ten game, especially where the SEC team goes north to Michigan. I love to see that. The top 10 matchup here. The Longhorns take on the Wolverines. This is going to be great. National champion winners last year against a team who made the college football playoffs. This should be amazing. Texas is definitely the better team. They come in at number 3. Michigan kind of had a questionable home win against Fresno State. I shouldn't say questionable, but offense didn't look great. I mean, we'll see. I think Texas is definitely the favorite in this one, despite having to travel, basically from the most southern state to the most northern state in Michigan. Um, I'm so back and forth in this one. Like, I could definitely see, like, I would never want to bet on this one. I could definitely see Michigan, like, it's home field. They got the crowd, you know, they've got the energy. It's a tough atmosphere for Texas to play in. They've still got some big players who make big plays. They win it. I could also see Texas going on the road. Quinn Ewers throwing dots. I could also see Texas pulling away too. Based off the week one performance, Texas is the better team. We'll see. We'll really see. It's gonna be a really fun one. Like, I think this is also like, is this the big noon game, or is this nationally televised on ABC? I can't remember. This is a pretty early one. Like, this is, I think, like kind of the big one to start the day. Yeah, it's gonna be phenomenal. You have some of the biggest name players in college football, right? Mason Graham, Donovan Edwards, Will Johnson, Quinn Ewers, Isaiah Bond, Kelvin Banks. You have just some of the best names in college football playing in the same game this week. It's going to be a great game. The atmosphere is going to be 100,000 plus people at that stadium. Ann Arbor is going to be electric week 2 for college football. However, I'm going to go with the Longhorns. I think they get the road win. They advance to 2-0, and hey, I think they're going to solidify themselves as, we're going to be really competing for the SEC. Because if you can get an at Big Ten win, that's going to be impressive against a top 10 team like a Michigan would be this week. If Michigan loses this game, I could see them still being ranked, but they would definitely fall outside the top 20. At least they should. Anyway, that's going to do my week 2 preview. So thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for watching if you're able to watch this on YouTube or Spotify. Again, super excited for this week. Look forward to the week 2 recap to begin around, maybe I'm kind of hoping to get it out around Monday of next week to go into week 3. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a blessed day, everyone, and we'll talk to you later.